plug in by any means necessary and start here, because all of that happens through this body. Until we're done with this body, everything you're doing happens through this body. How do you get in your body? Is it music? What music do you love? You know, okay, half an hour every day, just dance to music that you love. Put 5, 6 songs together and just do that and see where that takes you. You know, or just any kind of in like that. Sit down and write nonstop, automatic writing for 20 minutes. You know, just get the wheels greased. You know, to live a life of passion and intention that makes a difference in the world and brings you joy and bliss is a radical act.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's fucking awesome.
So welcome to the Give and Consent podcast. The goal of this show is to introduce you to the people and ideas behind sex positivity. And today I'm joined by Saffire Bouchelion. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Jamie. It's wonderful to be here.
Yeah. Now, you're up in the Portland area, and I got to know you this year because you took part in leading the orientation for Sex Positive World. Mm-hmm. How did you end up getting involved with Sex Positive?
Well, that is a vast question. The short answer is my best friend has been on the board and been involved with it really heavily the entire time I've known her. In fact, she was, sex positive, and then there's poly. So, I mean, I'm kind of already jumping paradigms here. Okay. A lot of sex positive people are poly, but that's not necessarily an equation, because you can be sex positive because that's the reality of our lives, is like sexuality and yes and juicy and not necessarily be poly. So I don't mean to overly equate those two. However, in my world, a lot of sex positive people are also poly. So I use them interchangeably, but I am very aware they're not the same. So anyway, my bestie has been poly the entire time we've been best friends, for about 12 to 13 years, right? And at a certain point, she discovered SPP, Sex Positive Portland, and Sex Positive World. And she was on the board, and she had an administration job, and she was deep in it. And so a lot of times, a lot of sex positive things would cross my ears, or she would be telling me about them, kind of like for years before I actually got involved. I would have to say that she's kind of the main impetus about how I got involved actively with sex positivity. However, sex positivity as a lifestyle, of course, that was completely a series of choices that I made, many of which were actually also instigated by her, ironically enough. The most recent of which, and maybe the most impactful of which, is my best friend, her main partner that she co-owned the house with, her main partner who helped her raise her children for like the last 6-7 years, and myself, and one of those kids who were growing up to graduate from high school, all cohabitated in a house together for 5 years in various permutations. And so here was my bestie living with the 3 main men she was lovers with. And all of us shared everything, literally, and including her, including co-parenting the daughter, including house chores, and just including the whole thing. And it was one of those things where if the world were to work the way that this household worked, the world would be infinitely better. And part of the thing was, I, as the artist, brought in the least amount of income as far as like money and like that whole thing, whereas one of the other partners, he was the money guy. You know what I mean? He was the one who had the money, but wanted to live in community, wanted to be in relationship with her, and came to love all of us. So that was how we all ended up living there together. So it was just this amazing process of how to navigate and how to make agreements and how to remake agreements and how to all of that. And everyone in the house donated according to what they did. So I, as the artist, had the biggest space by far. I had drum classes in there, I had dance classes, I had workshop, I had band rehearsals, and yet I paid considerably less rent than anybody else. So as an artist, but what I brought as into the world, as in teaching dance, as in playing music, as in all of my artistry, was the capital that I brought. What my bestie brought was the ability to weave people in community together. It was the most abundant time of my life. With community, with people, with resources available. I didn't have a car, but I always had a car whenever I needed one, including going on tours or going on, like here, you take the Prius for 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Like it was this amazing thing where it's not like you make this much money and that's the value that you have to the world. It's like, no, that's one of the values you have to the world. And this person does this, and this person does that. And that's like what real community is. And so that we all did that and also shared her, each according to like different agreements. And it wasn't like all even or anything, but it was amazing. It was a very enlightening and my level of creativity, because I was not in survival mode all the time as an artist, went through the roof. The things I was able to do, the things I was able to live in a household that not only was my drumming or my music or whatever embraced, but it was like enjoyed and appreciated and asked and called forth. Right. Yeah. And so it was how the world, I think is in my opinion, supposed to work. Like if you've got that resource, that's what you share. But you can't judge everyone else according to what society says is like what makes you a valuable human being, because a lot of people out there working and getting that money have completely lost sight of their dreams.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or their gifts, or bringing that forward. And so living in a loving, sex positive, yummy, fun, all the stuff, all the BS that was all in there, jealousy, bad behavior. That's not like we got to sidestep any of that. We just got to look at it, call it what it was, and correct it when possible. In fact, you know what my job was? This was literally spoken to me as one of my jobs in the house. My job was to call them on their white privilege.
Oh, wow.
That was literally what I was there to do. One of the things I was there to do. So like when they're like, hey, let's jest. I'm like, what do you mean let's jest? I don't have like $500 to let's jest. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's your privilege talking. And it just became a joke because sometimes they'd say something. I just look at them. They'd be like, I did that thing. Then I'd be like, and it was all love, but it was also very real.
Yeah.
We weren't bullshitting. We weren't like, tiptoeing around it. And so all of that, two of my best male friends, the last two places I lived, two of the best places I've ever lived, all came from the lovers of my best friend, who was also my lover. So there's sex positivity in real time.
Yeah.
How everybody's life is enriched. Personal growth is happening right and left, sometimes when you want it, sometimes when you don't. But what are you living for? Like what are you doing in your life? Are you just working and paying for it and hope for a vacation once in a while? Are you like it really comes to the core of how people are existing, sex positivity. Is it this lack mentality about if I have it, you can't have it. If you have it, that means I can't have it, or lack, or is it yes and? Is it yes, absolutely. This person I love is being loved by another person? Absolutely. You know what I mean? Like I have my feels and my stuff about it, but why would I not want that for them?
Yeah.
Why would I not want yes and? Because guess what? Then suddenly they can have that, but then I can have this over here. And I mean, there's still all the talks, all the agreements, all the safe sex stuff. I mean, all that, none of that goes away. And for a lot of people, it's way more work than they want to put into. They want to, you know, like, let me just sit in this thing that I have and it's mine, you know, until somebody has an affair or does the thing, you know, have an affair like a normal person. You can't have two people, just have one and then cheat on them like a normal person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's truly the message. You know, when it's proven over and over again that for the most part, monogamy as people have defined it is not actually a thing. The numbers say it's not a thing. So do we keep pretending over here, or do we put on our big boy and girl and other panties, like whatever they are, and go, okay, how do we make this work for all of us? Actually work. And yeah, I'm going to have to do some work in order to catch up with that part. And I'm going to have a hard time over there. And that's going to scare the hell out of me. And I'm more about, let's grow this whole humanity up and get over this petty, ridiculous bullshit that so many people are spending their energy and time with instead. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's such a wonderful answer. But a lot of people in our society have this concept that polyamory must be more difficult. And it's difficult to see the reward of that communal living when you've never seen it before.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you know, like here's one of the biggest this really even sums it up even more. It's all about that same living in that same household, right? But the person in the household who was more kind of the money resource guy, right? This is like 4.5 years in at this point. You know, he and I are we have mandates every week. Like, we're totally like in, like we have our own relationship that has nothing to do with her, which is the point also, right? So we're out on one of our mandates and he goes, hey, Steph, what do you think if I sell you my car? And I'll sell it to you for $2,000 less than I was going to sell it for on Craigslist or whatever. I'm like, sounds great, but like, how's that going to happen? You know what I mean? Like, and he's like, well, I said, he's like, well, you know, you can pay it off. I'm like, yeah, well, how we do, like, over how long? He's like, oh, you know, 4 or 5 years. And then I was like, you know, same thing would be at a bank. And I was like, okay, I did the math and I was like, are you kidding me? I could actually freaking afford this. I could actually afford this. And then he was going to give me the loan, but charge me like a higher a low interest rate, but like, you know, a reasonable interest rate. Then we went to the bank. He's like, you know what? Let's go to the bank and do this. And because he financially backed the loan, as opposed to whatever percentage they would have given me as a black man, which is considerably different than a white man of means, I got the car at a 2% is what he backed it with his own money, like his money backed the loan. So it was like, I don't know what you call it, but like, I suppose you get a loan, it's like the loan is backed by money from somebody else. So the loan's actually already paid off. So the payments to me are like less than $200 a month for a pretty darn new car, you know? And it happened because he said, you know, in the time that I've lived with you, when you told me you were going to do something, you always freaking did it. Like, I never had to think about it again. And he said, that's why you know what I'm saying? So like Polly, and we went from like me being a threat to him because of my bestie and him being jealous of that relationship, to him going, wow, I love this man. Wow, look at the amount of integrity that this man lives with all the time. I'm going to help him out by using my money to get him a reasonable loan so that he can have this car. Right. So yeah. I was by somebody who's very business oriented, he saw the level of integrity and earnestness I lived my life with and went, you're a person worthy of supporting in this way too. So I'm going to do that. All of that happened from poly.
That's an incredible story.
It is. And
Yeah.
I'm paying for it now, and I keep it clean as a big dog. And it's just, it's, you know what I mean? Like it's amazing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned music in there and teaching about music and movement.
Yeah.
How is that fitting into the journey?
You know, it's interesting, Jamie, that like when I go to, a lot of times when I've gone to more kind of sex positive events and things like that, it tends to be either about food and drink and like that kind of thing, or everybody kind of goes off into the play areas, right? And there'll be music and maybe even a DJ sometime, but it's almost like a thing to pass through to get to the good stuff, quote unquote. You know what I mean? The fact that in a lot of those instances, I didn't really seem to be getting invited into partaking of the good stuff is a whole nother topic of conversation as an African-American male in what is mostly, at least in the areas that I've been, a upper white middle class arena. That's a whole nother conversation. But I would go to these things, everybody being super nice to like, but I didn't end up playing very much, you know. But my thing, what I do for a living is teaching dance and movement and rhythm and embodiment through that. And what I noticed was, where's the dance as an end to itself? Where's movement as its own blissful, like get in your body that way? Even Tantra says stuff like, you know, dance like with your partner and get the juice going that way and then going into play. And I that seemed to be missing so much of the time when I went. And so I'm a big advocate, especially in sex positive spaces, for it to be sort of a more well-rounded experience by bringing in movement and music and like that. Yeah, I just find it a major thing that majorly enhances the experience.
Yeah. You use a word in there, and I want to make sure that listeners know what it means. What do you mean by embodiment?
Right. Well, that's very interesting. So I teach NIA. NIA is a dance, a body, mind, emotion, and spirit fitness and lifestyle practice. The creators of which live in Portland, Oregon. It's been going for 38 years now, and I've been a practitioner of NIA as a student or a teacher for about 26, 27 years. You get belts like you do in martial arts. So you get white, blue, green, brown, and black, and then first degree black and second degree black. I'm the first African-American male to have a black belt and a first degree black belt in NIA in the world. So that's how I got to travel the world and teach. And I'm also one of 5% of men who do NIA.
Wow.
It's 85% women. So when I would go and travel and teach, it was a thing. You know what I mean? So one of my NIA students, they call me two things. They call me a spiritual drill sergeant. Was like one of my favorite ones that was given to me, you know, about a decade ago. But one of my students coined for, you're an embodiologist. And embodiologist is that getting people in their body by any means necessary, through their voice, through movement, through drumming, and in the last 5 to 6 to 7 years, through sexuality as well, right? So it's all about the ability to take a full-fledged ride in this vessel, fully juicy to the fingernails, to the toes, to the tip of the hair, in ways that are self-generating as well as sexuality that's co-generating. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's different to do it through a sexual vessel, which yes, please, yes, please, yes, please, thank you. And What about, can you do it with yourself anyway, just from the pure ability to move this body? To, oh God, it's so rich. There's so much available there. And I myself, because of my, my job and because of who I am, I can tell more about a person from watching them move for 5 minutes than them telling me any story they want to tell me in an hour. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, the body doesn't lie. It's just right there.
Yeah.
That's where that person's stuck. That's how that's how they're, wow, look at how their brain interacts, just the whole thing. It's like a blueprint for me. And again, NIA, body, mind, emotion, and spirit, fitness, and lifestyle practice, being able to integrate the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual into one whole being, because all of us are like heavy, like some people are body heavy, some are mentally heavy, some are emotionally heavy. Like, we all have the places where we like to rest or where our default goes to, right? And to have equal access to all of that makes for a more well-rounded person and a more well-rounded, more well-resourced society.
Yeah, absolutely. I love all of that. And you wrote a book also about this, about finding your groove. Tell me about the Groove Goblin.
It's a children's book.
Yeah.
I was actually teaching at a children's camp, Camp Magic, in Singapore for a summer. And I wrote the first half of this children's book, riding to and from work on the bus. And then when I did come back to Portland, I wrote the second half, riding to and from work on the bus here. So it was written in 2 different countries on public transportation. And yes, the Groove Goblin is, he's half me and half goblin. There he is. And he's playing a handpan. So first off, having an African, a character of color on the front of a children's book in this country. And I've never seen one playing a handpan, a hong drum. So that is that book. And it's just, like you said, it's all about finding your groove. And here's the first page. I can just show you. And that's him in bed. It's like, the Groove Goblin wakes with a groove in his heart. Each day he's so excited that he can't wait to start. He says there's grooves to be made, and every day is a song. And if he grooves deep enough, others might come along. Yeah, it's just about how do you groove with the world? What's your pulse? What's your rhythm? Learning that, getting in touch with that, with your heartbeat, the way your groove happens. And then as you feel with that, being able to groove well with others, right? To where we all learn to groove together and have a grand groovolution. It's children book style, but the message is exactly what I live.
Yeah.
But the first thing is you have to know your own groove, and a lot of people don't. Because if you're living through all the filters of what you think you're supposed to and what somebody told you and blah, 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 and you haven't really truly landed there yourself, but by default, according to how you were indoctrinated, then you're not actually with your own groove yet, And a lot of people find it like after they're retired, and now they're 60, and all of a sudden they're realizing the thing that they loved and they wish they'd been doing all along. Yeah. And so
what's kind of the first step for somebody who goes, yeah, I'm not doing that. How do I get from here to there? Like, how do you get started?
God, how do you get started? Well, certainly making enough time to listen to yourself. Certainly having some sort of connection here, God, goddess, spirit, universe, whatever story you want it to be. It's unimportant. There is obviously something bigger than you in this body. So listening from the heart to that, with that, the things that, like, bring you joy and that you love, and like, just sit down and write a piece of paper and a pen. What do I love? What do I love? What like actually, like when I think about what like gives me energy, excites me, makes me go, man, what, I love that thing. Now, of course, there's things like, going for hikes, swimming in the ocean, of course, all great, all perfect. What about ones that you could actually produce something in the world? Because then it comes down to the same thing as sex positivity. How are you living? Are you living only for yourself, or are you living to bring something to the world and make humanity better?
Yeah.
If you can find that thing that also turns you on and gives you energy, like as you give, it gives to you, then you're onto something.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned this, because for some folks, they think if they don't live by that narrative, a lot of us behind the religious narrative of what relationships are supposed to be, what you're supposed to want.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel now in terms of being connected to the divine or God, or that place of origin?
Well, again, it's like, how are you living, right? Sexuality itself, is it a spiritual practice for you, or is it just getting some? You know what I mean? Your life, when you get up every day, are you just going through the motions and doing the damn thing? Or are you like, yeah, it's just about plugging in. Plug in by any means necessary, and start here, because all of that happens through this body. Until we're done with this body, everything you're doing happens through this body, right?
Yeah.
And so once again, Embodyologist. So how do you get in your body? Is it music? What music do you love? Okay, half an hour every day, just dance to music that you love. Put 5-6 songs together and just do that and see where that takes you. And during that time, it's, you're not trying to pick up stuff. You're not answering the phone. You're just dancing, or just any kind of in like that. Sit down and write nonstop, automatic writing for 20 minutes. Just get the wheels greased. To live a life of passion and intention that makes a difference in the world and brings you joy and bliss is a radical act.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's fucking awesome.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I want to say too, we can talk about it all day, but it comes down to actually doing the thing. And if that starts with 5 minutes of dancing, that is better than 0 minutes of dancing, or going, oh, I really wish I would do that.
Mm-hmm. I should really do that sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's uncomfortable at first, is the other thing that I have discovered on my own journey. And what happens is the more you make it something you do every day, every other day, you start setting a time and place to do these things, you build momentum.
Mm-hmm.
Because at first it's uncomfortable, it's new, and it takes time for it to feel right.
Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of what you see when you're teaching this to new folks who are getting into it?
By the time somebody comes to me,
Mm-hmm.
they want it.
Yeah.
And so one of my superpowers is, as I'm imparting it to them the best way I know how, is I'm able to cue, again, off their movement, off their body. Is this working? Oh, shift to the, you know what I mean? Like, I have 5 planets in Virgo. I'm very much about, here's how you do it. Here's where it starts. Here's where it ends. That's the thing, right? Teaching Nia, and actually teaching anything, has taught me what you do is you show up with a full program ready to go with all your tools, and then you throw that bad boy out the window and actually teach what needs to be taught. Every time. You always come with a plan, and you always don't have the ego involvement of being attached to it.
Yeah, I love that.
And that's I mean, at this point, I'd say one of my main superpowers is, as a teacher, It doesn't even matter what I'm teaching. If there's something that I feel like I know enough to teach you, I can teach you that thing or about that thing about as well as anybody else could. Because I come with the tools and I come with no ego about it.
Mm.
You know, I teach drumming to people who do their best to convince me they have no rhythm. And they try hard. They try hard to convince me. I'm like, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. We're going to find a way in, you know, and we do. And to see people light up when they get outside of their own story, it's like a heart orgasm for me.
I love that. Before I ask you my final question,
Yes.
Where can people find more of you?
Well, I'm at Saffire Bouchelion on Facebook. And then there's Saffire, Saffire Bouchelion, Bouchelion, SaffirBouchelion.com. So I do have that website. I actually think I need to pay for another. I need to get on that. So I still have a website. I don't really use it that much, but it is a way that you can get a hold of me through that, or just Saffire B, Saffire B as in boy, at me.com is a great way to get a hold of me. Yeah, so any of those. It's also Saffire Bouchelion on, what is it? Instagram, which I don't really use altogether that much, but I do have a page and I have a bunch of things there. Yeah, any of those would work fine.
And are you still teaching music and dance and all those things?
I teach 3 NIA classes a week and have for the last 9 months online. And so, like, I have a student, she and her daughter moved to France about 1.5 years ago. She's been able to come to class. I've got people chiming in from Israel and from Germany and, you know, a lot of people in Portland, but some people back east. And so, yeah, I teach 3 NIA classes a week, every week. I teach 2 to 3 drumming classes a week online as well. Djembe and handpan and conga. So I do all of that. And then I DJ and ecstatic dance about once a month online. So yeah, I and then different people hire me for festivals or for conferences or things like that. And I might play my handpan for them or lead a NIA class or a DJ and ecstatic dance or all of the above. So yeah, I'm online multiple times a week teaching, and it goes really well.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
So my final question, now that we've got that all out there,
Dun, dun, dun.
Is we're in a very strange time right now. We're all in lockdown. There's a pandemic. This is being recorded at the very end of 2020.
Yeah.
Last day of 2020.
Last 2020, indeed.
Yes. So what advice do you have for people who are getting through this time that they can still stay sex positive and embodied?
Oh, I've got a great one of those. I have had great success at basically having video sex dates, online sex dates. I mean, with people I'm connected with, not with like random people, or I'm sure those kind of sites probably exist or something. I don't know anything about that. But with like people who are past lovers or present lovers who I now no longer see, to get on and just have a sexy time. You know, you have the visual and you have the words and you can run the energy. And I mean, I've had completely satisfying experiences on both ends having video sex chats and sex dates. So it's a step up from a sexy phone call, because there's also visuals. You can set your space, you can wear what you want to wear, you know, you can just do the whole thing. I mean, it's what we have.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, no, it's not going to be as good as in person. Of course not. But it's better than just you by yourself alone all the time. You know? Yeah. And talk about safe sex.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
You don't have to have the stars talk at all. Unless you want to for fun, for practice.
Yeah.
But yeah, video sex dates, oh, such a great thing. You know, writing to each other, writing poetry, like sending pictures. And I mean, you know, not, I don't know about all the graphic, like it's not that, just sexy pictures and, you know, flirty, teasy. I mean, you can keep the juice going. And I mean, if there's someone who's completely sequestered and so are you, 2 weeks later, why don't you make that your bubble? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then suddenly you're not just by yourself, you know, and make agreements around engagement anywhere else and have your bubble. I mean, I have my partner that I live with. I have one lover, and then I have my other lover. And everybody is fully informed. And like one I see once a week, one I see twice a week, and then one I live with every day, you know? Again, that takes a lot of doing, that takes a lot of communication, that takes a lot of agreements and holding integrity. But, or hang out alone at home. You know, I mean, there's no harm, no foul. No, I'm not mad at you. There's nothing wrong with it. There's times where I would love to just be keeping my own company, but it's more like doing it because you choose to, as opposed to because you have to.
Yeah.
But you kidding me? I'd take a house by the beach by myself for a month in a heartbeat right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Have it all just be virtual sex dates. And other than that, I'm on my own, looking out over the water. I'd be so down. In fact, I'd do that for certainly a month, maybe a couple of months.
Nice.
You know, but that's me. You know, someone that's been in that state for like 8 and 9 months already, they're freaking over it, you know? So be conscious, be aware, make agreements, keep them, do all the protocols that you know to do, and be proactive in getting what you need. It's really crucial right now. Like, we really have to take care of each other to degrees that we've never had to.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me for the show. And I wonder if I could ask you to maybe do a little performance for us. Since you've got your drum.
Want to hear a little hand pan?
Yeah.
I think that could happen. I would not be sad about that. Uh-oh. Wait, let's see if we got this. Shit, we got here. Can you see me? All right, we got everybody in. Can you hear?
Yeah, sounds good.
Nice. Okay, because I have an external mic there that I could also plug in. But if you got it. All right. Here now,
That was beautiful. Thank you so much for being on the show today. And until next time, this is out every Wednesday.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Jamie. It was really a pleasure. I hope some good stuff was gotten.
I think so, yeah.
And yeah, let's just keep loving each other up, loving each other through this.
Thank you so much for watching this week's episode. If you want to see more, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so that we end up in your feed. If you got something out of this personally that was helpful to you, also please leave a comment below. I love hearing the feedback about what's working and what's not. That's what makes this show better. And until next time, love you more, and we'll see you then.